Hey everyone, welcome. We are still on site in Costa Rica at Bentinho Massaro's Shift into Permanent Alignment event. Having a blast talking to so many of the incredible retreat attendees. We are now bringing Nadim Melhem onto the show. Hi Nadim.
Hello, welcome Atlas.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm so pumped.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm happy to have met you. Nadim came from France.
Exactly.
Where in France?
In Passy, it's close to the Mont Blanc.
Okay, to Mont Blanc.
It's a big white mountain.
Beautiful. We came all the way from France, and we've been vibing a lot, especially on relaxing back into our awareness and relaxing back into the playfulness and the perfection that we are.
Exactly.
We've been vibing on it a lot together, and we've had even some brilliant awakening experiences together in doing so. Whereas a lot of the time we have this calling to go and socialize, to take the time to go inward can evolve consciousness, awaken consciousness at an even more profound level just by taking a step back into silence and relaxing into that awareness, into the I am the creator, abiding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a very important space to also come together and abide as one together. So it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. When you add another 2, 3, 4, 5 plus abiding, powerful container formed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's a powerful permission slip to stay present.
Yeah.
Like the refresh rate.
Exactly. The refresh rate.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it. So it's almost like we'll talk about this. Actually, let's go ahead and outline out. We called this episode Enlightenment because we're going to walk through sort of the most perennial understanding of these fundamental steps. And so ultimately, it's already perfect. It's already perfection, and yet it's also perfecting in the sense of recognizing its true nature. So when you have somebody that is egoic and they believe that they are a separate, finite, biological entity, that they're not aware of their awareness, they're not aware of that I am, they're not aware of that being impersonal and eternal, and they're not aware of themselves as God or as source or as infinity, as the creator that is then creating these realities, these dreamed realities to experience. And so these are sort of the layers that we're going to go through, and that's what would mean as enlightenment versus as the finite contracted ego. The ego is trying to get peace and happiness from the world. It's trying to extract it by relationships, substances, experiences, whereas the enlightenment is bringing peace and happiness to the world.
Yes, by its self-recognition.
Yes, by its self-recognition. Yeah. So how do you feel about that general system in terms of going from sort of the person consciousness, where even the subtlety of recognizing consciousness is not even there? It's basically just focused on objects and trying to extract happiness and peace from the world. And then basically the spiritual awakening happens, which is when the consciousness becomes more expanded. It relaxes the contracted energy into what is many times called a oneness. It begins feeling more of the cosmic consciousness style. And then it begins to be more subtle because it abides as awareness, right? So it recognizes awareness being fundamental, and that this just being one expression that awareness experiences, and then recognizing that oneself as the creator even beyond that. And so, so how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so your question is like, what is a powerful entry point? Yeah. In my experience, it's very crucial to interrupt what you think you are. So to interrupt the stream of thoughts, interrupt the identifications that we don't know we have or are associated with. And Bentinho Massaro shared a very powerful tool, the 2 to 5 seconds interrupting. But how it started in my experience was not really with this pointer, because I didn't know this articulation. It started kind of with reading books, and one of these books was The Power of Now.
I love it.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's mainly about stopping to think, or realizing that you can be aware of the thinking and seeing that it's not you. Right?
Yeah.
And so I have a twin brother, and I'm very grateful and we're very privileged that we could have this reflection, you know, like being able to investigate together. Because often when beings start to be inspired or start to realize there is something deeper to this than what they think or than what they know, and it's kind of like a being alone, like a lonely process of like checking and trying and not being sure, and it being in great contrast with the surrounding, with the friends, with the family, with the people that they have, the circle where we grow up in. And I had this privilege to have that with my brother. And at one point when we were reading in these books for quite some time, a few months I would say, we went to visit our family in Jordan. And when we were there, we made this kind of permission slip, this tool that every time I would recognize that I'm thinking, but just like the thoughts that we think every day again. And there's a high percentage of the thoughts that is just coming from the previous days. And we would make this little permission slip that every time I recognize, I'm thinking, so I can become aware that thinking is happening. Like in this moment, you can become aware that there is a stream of thought appearing inside the space or inside of your capacity to know it, capacity to observe it. And every time that I would become aware of that, I would do this. And it would trigger my brother when we were in the same space to also be reminded, like,
interesting.
I was thinking too. Because most of the time we were just visiting our family, sitting in circles, you know, and they were all talking Arabic, and we obviously could not speak Arabic. So there was not much engagement for us. So either we were sitting or we were driving to the next group of family, because we didn't saw them for a long time and they all wanted to see us. So it was like there was nothing for our mind to engage with. There was nothing to do for us than to sit there and hear them speaking Arabic. So we started to implement this, and every time I would...
Is that...
And then together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's also kind of the representation of here, you remember, then there, and then together. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So, and then it would be provoked or invoked to interrupt the stream of thoughts, to just give away for a few moments, few seconds. And then to abide in this space as long as possible until you again forget or identify yourself with the thinker of the thought. And then, for example, my brother would recognize this, and he would do this. And then I would be provoked. And it started to happen so rapidly, like synergy, you know, like really like a spiral upwards, that after 2-3 weeks we were able to sit and have a few thoughts in a few hours.
Perfect.
Because we were really extreme in it, because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's great. Wow.
And this opened the first real window into like my identity dissolving, but not really knowing that this was what was happening. But just knowing like recognizing there is so much freedom here, like
Wow.
So this was very powerful opening of the window to more of myself, window to source.
Yes. I love that. That's a great way to kick it off. So, how old were you?
I was 15, 16.
Okay. So 15, 16, and you have a twin brother.
Yes, exactly.
Looks like you.
Exactly.
That's cool. Okay, cool. That's really interesting. Seeing, now I'm visualizing you guys that young doing do, and that's really a fascinating way to sort of create a trigger around the relaxation from the cloud. Which this would be a good time to go through the analogy as well. So we're talking about stream entry, which is sort of the first fundamental way to get yourself from a more egoic level of physicalism to a more subtle level of consciousness or awareness. And in doing so, what you got to do is you have to begin recognizing that the thoughts and sensations and perceptions that appear are like transient clouds that arise and then disappear, just like the waves on the ocean arise and disappear. And so what is the space or the container in which they appear and disappear? That is awareness, which is the sky, where the clouds appear and disappear, or which is the ocean, where the waves appear and disappear. And so you begin abiding, as Nadim said, dun dun dun. So when you feel the ability to relax back, you catch yourself entering into that timeless presence rather than being contracted by the thought or the object, that then you can make a signal for yourself and for friends to also abide. And then over time you get so good at abiding that you can go for hours on end without having even a thought arise. Yeah, or several thoughts arise, but over a couple of hours, which is very fascinating. So,
and it doesn't,
yeah.
like the thoughts can come up, but it doesn't take you anymore.
Yeah.
If you, for that moment, like deliberately enough, what is the word? Commit to that, then the pristineness of the clear open sky, like you said, becomes so vivid that when a story appears, you see it directly. And you see it just emanate. Otherwise, it looks like it's you really believing that.
Yes.
You're really thinking that. And that's very initial to start to see the space between you and the thinker.
Perfect.
Of the thoughts. Like the first distinction or discrimination.
Exactly. So there's a detachment that happens from the story over time, and you become less sold into the thought stream that would then take you on the monkey mind adventure. And so you become less attached to it. You become more of a witness or an observer to it just happening and then arising. And then because you don't get attached to it, it disappears rather than going into monkey mind.
Yes.
We got to a point where throughout the retreat, obviously over the last couple of years of practicing what we've been talking about so far, we're able to, in a sense, instead of going like this to trigger each other, we just basically look at each other and then just we've been doing this the whole retreat, where we would just start, looking at each other and breathing and connecting to that very impersonal, eternal awareness and the creatorship. And then we would take a couple of those breaths and just both abide as that. And then we would just giggle because we know our nature.
Yeah, it's like this giggle in the heart from the creator recognizing itself. And recognizing that it's recognized seemingly from 2 points.
Exactly.
But recognize that we are looking from the same place.
Yes.
And this was with my twin brother easier to see in the beginning, that we were looking from the same place.
Yeah.
Somehow at one point,
Perfect.
This was the recognition, like, yes.
Yeah. The creator directly experiencing its truth in its illusory creation, where the agents seem to be so attracted to the illusion, to Maya, so that when they take a moment to recognize their true permanent source, infinitude, and abide in that, it's so funny.
And especially with you.
You too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great because like I use the words of looking from the same place, but actually it's more like looking from the same non-place, because otherwise he would be looking from somewhere inside there and I would be looking from somewhere inside here. But because it's the creator recognizing itself, like you used the question that you could provoke this recognition with, of like, do you know that we come from the same source? Because this is something you can intuitively tune into. Like, it transcends the intellectual, do you know that, like, do you heard that? You can use it that way too, but you can also check, like, do you sense that there is only one source? That we are that one source?
Yes.
And that everything in its variety is an expression of that one source, expressing in infinite ways. Something so beautiful for me is like to see like infinity, that what is you, has to express itself in all the infinite ways.
Exactly.
To be like the true representation of infinity.
That's exactly it, yes. This is one song out of an endless possibilities of musical compositions. Or another way to say it is that this is one way to paint a blank canvas out of the infinite possible ways to paint a blank canvas. Or this is one way to put images together into a movie out of the infinite ways to put images together into movies. And so you'll never come to the end. That's where we've been, that's where we're going, it's eternal, and that this is but one representation, one creation, one playful experience for us to undergo. I like that way of phrasing it as well. I think it more easily gives people glimpses into their nature, even if they're at a more egoic or just a stream entry level, because a lot of people can relate to another way to say it is that how many different ways can you vibrate your vocal cords to make languages?
Yes.
How many different ways can you put arrange food into recipes?
Yeah, and that's very interesting because it's a very potent example of seeing that the potential for every possible tone to come out is already there.
There you go.
But the unique song is the way in which the tones are organized.
There you go.
The way they come together, the way that they have silence in between.
Perfect.
And the way they dance together.
Yes.
Or the interval and all these kind of things. And that's then the unique expression of consciousness. The uniqueness, that unique aspect of infinity that has to be there, or the whole, in the expressive sense, is not complete.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
So then this is like, in my experience, the more that I surrender to the natural stream or the natural way of being, the more that this we can call it authenticity, feels like it falls in its place.
That's right.
Like just a visceral experience of like clicks, like you feel when it's like a yes.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So it's really cool. It's kind of like playing music. You play music and you hear when it says yes. So you always have a reference point. Does it sound good? Yes. Doesn't mean everyone loves the same music, but you can feel even when it's not your genre that it sounds good. Yeah, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Another way to potentially play on that a little more is to say things like that people that are abiding in more enlightened states, they play more in tune. They vibe more in tune. And then those that are in a more egoic state, they create dissonance, disharmony. That there's in the symphony, there's playing out of tune.
Yes.
And so based on the level of purification that one's went under, so we gave the example of the thought stream, and then entering into the thought stream by recognizing that the clouds of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions appear inside of the sky of awareness. So relax back into the sky of awareness, especially with your eyes closed, taking inhalations, and then become more subtle around recognizing when the thought cloud arises, and then detach yourself from it so that it doesn't take your monkey mind for a wander, but that it just disappears, and then you recognize even more subtly the fact that you're the awareness in which the cloud arose and disappeared. So that's stream entry. That's the way to conquer that level. And go ahead, you go.
Yeah.
And then,
And you can really relax your brain and your eyes, like we often we look like this, and then the moment we relax the eyeballs, like physically, and the brain, kind of as if it goes to sit instead of it's standing, like it starts to sit. Let it relax.
Perfect.
And then when you notice that a thought form or any kind of sensation arises, don't feel like it should not be there. Just notice it without engaging with it, without jumping on that train of thought. And like as non-judgmental or caring in a sense as you can in this moment. But every time you notice it, you just gently bring your awareness or your attention back to being. Because it's not really you that jumps on the train of thought, it's more your attention that is now engaged, married with the thought.
Perfect.
So then you notice, okay, this one of my most profound powers is the attention.
Yes.
So I shifted to being, to the sense that, or the knowing that this is kind of the only thing you are 100% sure of in this moment, and is that somehow you have to be first.
Yes.
In order to recognize
That's right.
the thought or the sensation. So you can use whatever appears as an indication that you are.
Yeah.
And this is very powerful because then it doesn't matter what appears. You can feel like you're all wounded up and your mind is going crazy still. If you ask yourself, what does it indicate directly? Okay, that somehow there has to be the capacity here to know that this is appearing.
Yeah.
Automatically there is more space.
Yeah.
Like a zooming out.
Yeah, what's most fundamental is the being, is the awareness, is the, in a sense, the formless container in which all of the thoughts and emotions, sensations, perceptions, beliefs, objects appear and disappear. Make that subtle distinction and abide more as that formless sky of beingness and awareness that then is the container for the clouds. Yeah, that's so perfect. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and it does become easier to be able to see that there is a space between you and what appears. So it's just a matter of, like, one of the previous, like, it's the only video I saw to this moment from Atlas, but the one about earnestness is a very powerful entry point to that, because it's really about where you perceive the most benefit. Are you really desiring deeper freedom? Because if you do, automatically you care more about abiding in being than in engaging or being married with the appearances and being lost in it.
Yep.
Sleeping in it.
Perfect.
So kind of all the all the catalytic experiences that we have, or going to retreats, and it's kind of like a big portion of being here is about the inspiration first of the being, and how they are, what they are constituted as, and what they radiate and represent, inspires you to desire that more than the confused way that you are living.
Perfect.
And this in itself allows you to have the natural shift in choice to abide instead than to sleep in the thought.
Yep. Yeah, humility is key to say, I know not, or I know I do not know. And so if you can humbly say that I am suffering, I am unsure, I'm confused about these thoughts that take me on these wild rides, and then I end up hurting myself or hurting my family or my friends by getting angry or yelling or catalyzing some sort of disharmony. The first step is to recognize that that is the case, and then to humbly say, I know not, and then to tune in to what we're talking about here, which is the perennial wisdom of how to take that first step into the stream entry. And earnestness is key. As Nadim said, that do you want to enter into your thought stream and become more liberated, more illuminated, more enlightened, more radiating love like the sun unconditionally, or do you want to stay steeped in the confusion? And so use your choice to be earnest.
Yes. I think this is a powerful entry point in maybe giving some or sharing some pointers, or kind of like an understanding and mapping of how beliefs work, because it's
Please.
Yeah. It's like a lot of in what we share in this retreat, or what Bentinho shared, also is based on the work of the Law of One, a book of the Law of One, Contact, and they share that it's kind of like 3 steps or phases, and the first one is to know yourself, to know your stuff, to know your conditioning, to know your patterns, your behavior, to be aware of them, to be able to acknowledge them. And the second step is to accept them, to see that they are the already acceptedness. And the third step is to become the creator, to really experientially be the creator. Not just in essence, but the words that Atlas used, to perfect the perfected, is to become the creator. And this first step of knowing yourself, in a way, it's kind of tricky, like because the whole thing is that the ego effect does everything in its power to stay alive.
Yep.
Yeah? So it has a lot of sneaky ways to keep asking for me. It's kind of like it's associating for your attention. This is like the root of it. And to be able to acknowledge when a belief comes up, let's say you're triggered, like a negative belief comes up and you're triggered, it's not pleasant, right? So there is something that automatically wants to avoid that, or run away from that, or blame, or whatever, you know, like what we normally do. And a very simple entry point into that is like recognizing how much it hurts. Like how much it hurts when you are trying to avoid or not see that the belief is there. And in the moment that you acknowledge it, there is so much more space. Like you don't have to do anything with it. Just like the acknowledging, okay, this thing is appearing, it is there, It is not defining me, but it is appearing. And one of
Perfect.
one of the very powerful things that they shared in this retreat was about it's kind of like seeing that all this conditioning is not yours. It's not your fault. You were meant to be conditioned. You were meant to identify yourself with the understanding of this collective. And you grow up, you learn the ways of this civilization, in subtle telepathic ways, in verbal ways, in many ways, in all kinds of social settings. So you are meant to behave like that. It's your choice, in a sense, from a deeper space, but to keep it to this point, you don't have a choice up to you recognize that you have the choice. Up to you can have some space, some manner of space between you and the conditioning or the conditioned self. And this is powerful, this was powerful in my experience, because then you can let go of your sense of self-worth more and more to be attached to acknowledging that you are full of shit. Acknowledging that there is a conditioned, sleepy way active within your being, or that potential is still there for you to choose out of your free will, to merge your attention with that, to believe that. It's your power, kind of a synopsis of what are three more fundamental powers is the power of attention, the power of belief, to believe something, to agree upon something, and the power to identify, to merge your sense of I, your sense of innermost sense of being, with what appears in and as being, you could say, with what appears inside of the view. Do you feel to comment something? Or I continue with them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like there is so much joy for us to share about this, because we know how it really frees you up.
That's right.
Yes. And
you no longer become a slave in a cage to the monkey mind taking you every single day for countless rides.
yes.
And rather you become liberated and free on a moment-to-moment basis, absorbed in your true nature, which then enables Satchitananda, that existence, consciousness, bliss, and you from your heart radiate that like the sun, and it just becomes your true everyday experience, which then butterfly effects onto your family, friends, people online, the community, the world, etc.
Yeah.
That's why we even share it, correct?
Exactly.
Because it's that liberating and freeing and important for also igniting the global awakening. Yeah. Yeah.
Something or some way that is very powerful for you in this moment to tune into is to really look in this moment, like how much it is actually hurting you, how much you actually feel mixed, confused, like you're all over the place, and you just from a simple place, like how much it's actually hurting you. Just to stay there for a little moment and to ask yourself, what do you truly want? Like, what is the intention or the reason why you are even listening to us? Because if you are here and you stayed listening, there is a deeper desire for being here.
Perfect.
And if that is clear for you in this moment, or to whatever degree you feel clear about that, and it is to be more free, or to recognize the freedom that you already are.
Perfect.
Then one of the really powerful questions that we got this week was, what will it take for you? How big does the catalyst has to be before you would apply, let's say, just to make it a little bit more accessible, 70% of your attention to your freedom.
Ooh.
Like really look for yourself in this moment. What is the moment, what should happen before you allow yourself, before you direct 70% of your attention to being committed to yourself, only your true self, freedom. This can be relaxing the thoughts, being more honest, whatever it is that you have access to. What will it take?
Will you respond to the feather that is doing a little, hey, catalyst, pay more attention to that which sees rather than that which is seen? And if you do that, if you commit yourself with more than 70% intent to be like, I'm gonna become that which sees instead of that which is seen, then you will not need the sledgehammer, which
and this moment is the feather. The imagination is the feather. It's, if you really imagine this for a moment, then it means that there is enough desire within you, or that you choose for that to be the case, to use this catalytic moment to the best of your ability before it has to become the sledgehammer.
Perfect.
And the reason why we ask you this question, or why I ask you this question, is because if you can check and you see, okay, if this would happen, for example, all my current friends would hate me, despise me, my family would not want to communicate with me anymore, I would lose my apartment, and I would just have to become fully present to tap into my full power, wandering around this world and really taking it all the way, like fully playing, choosing to go all in. This is a little bit more than 70%, but just to use the example, then check for yourself. You can also choose 100%, and like take whatever feels the most powerful for you, and then ask yourself if that would be the consequence. So either that happens, or you choose to be true to yourself, 70% or 100% from this moment on.
And let's even take it another step fundamentally to even the question, what do you desire? Because when you desire, that's what you're putting at your North Star location.
Yes.
And so if you, first of all, are not aware of what you desire, that means that you're so jumbled up and confused that you don't even have something in your North Star location.
Yes.
So become aware of that first. And then second is that, okay, I am aware that I'm jumbled up, that I don't necessarily have something in that North Star location. So now it's take time. Take 30 minutes, take an hour, take a whole day even, to just go out into nature and reflect, what do I want to put in that North Star location? Because the moment when you put liberation or freedom or enlightenment or my true nature, I want to know myself. That's why the Delphic maxim, know thyself, was written on the top of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi 2,500 years ago, because it was the North Star. And that way, when you put something there, every day, what you'll do is you'll wake up and you'll remember. that there's something in that North Star position. And your days will become more and more less confusing and more geared toward a desire, which is that freedom or that liberation or that true nature, that metaphysical insight of knowing yourself, of knowing our true nature. So that's a critical component to it. And then put earnestness towards that.
Yes.
So if you put 1% earnestness towards it, you're going to be a snail. In France, they know about snails. Escargot.
Yeah, I'm not really from France, but
Yeah,
I'm living in
yeah,
France.
yeah,
So I'm,
yeah.
I'm from Belgium, so yeah, they also speak about escargots.
Escargot.
Escargots.
And if you do 2%, you'll tiny faster snail, not much faster. You know, you really have to work your way up to putting in 25, 50%, 75% earnestness towards that North Star desire for you to actually be able to liberate yourself, become free, recognize your true nature, these types of things. Because and here's what it would look like. If you actually began putting, let's say, 50% towards the desire of freedom, 50% is a lot, but this is what it would look like. That would mean that at least half of your day, so you're going to spend about 16 hours awake. That means you're going to spend 8 hours of the day on freedom. That means you might read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That means you might just relax for an hour and try and become more aware of awareness itself. And as you do those repetitions, you'll become less attached to those thought clouds. And so that means for those 8 hours, if you're 50% earnest, that means you will spend 8 hours per day on that North Star desire of freedom. And guess what? Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. The more earnestness that you put at a younger age, when you have greater neuroplasticity, the more you'll get compound interest in your 30s, 40s, 50s. You'll become a Gnostic being. You'll know the true nature. You'll radiate out love and peace like the sun. And you'll butterfly effect that out to everything you do and touch at a younger age, because you'll have put more earnestness into it.
It's really great. And like let's say that your North Star is truly to recognize yourself as the freedom that you are, but the thought stream is telling you in this moment that you cannot, that you are not capable to, for 50%, so 8 hours a day, dedicate yourself towards it because you are too jumbled up or whatever. Then this imagination that we shared, and I will share another one afterwards, is very powerful, because if you imagine either a consequence or something amazing, you will see that you can do it. So if the consequence is high enough, so you always have to imagine until it really clicks, until you feel it like, wow, yeah, if this was the consequence, then I could do it. And if you find this place in yourself where you see like, I could do it, if this was the consequence, it means you can do it. Because if you could do it then, it means you can do it now. Just you don't want it badly enough. Another way of putting it that I heard that was very powerful for me was like, if someone would give you 5 million a month, for example, if you would if you would dedicate or prioritize 8 hours a day to your freedom, could you do it? Of course you could. I could do it. You can do it. Everyone in this retreat can do it. Doesn't mean everyone is doing it. So this is just like ways of playing, checkmating the conditioned self, using its own way of looking to counter itself.
Perfect.
And I'm going to have a little pee.
Perfect. And
then you can
that's
check.
great timing,
Yeah.
because I'll go ahead and I'll explain what was coming up for me.
Perfect.
So, as Nadim was just saying that, Bentinho also has a pretty aggressive way of putting it as well, which is that if you are to have a forcible experience where somebody takes a gun, points it towards your head, and says, stop all descriptions for 2 to 5 seconds. Stop describing your experience for 2 to 5 seconds. What happens? You take a breath, quiet down, and you melt into the fact that you're aware. And that's it. That's why 2,000 plus years ago, you had the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And that's why you had 2,500 years ago, you had the Buddha and the Four Noble Truths. And what they say is they say, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Union is simply the cessation of the fluctuations of mind. It's that simple. So, if you get these forcible experiences that make it so that you have to stop for 2 to 5 seconds, repeatedly, force yourself and watch as what happens is that you get to relax. Stop describing your experience. Relax into the very fact of I am. That beingness, that awareness, and reside there for as long as you can. Now, if you reside there for 2 to 5 seconds, that's fantastic. That's great. That's beautiful. That's a whole level up from being confused without a North Star. It's a huge level up. And that's going to very clearly, as Richard has been sharing with us at the retreat as well, who's teaching alongside Bentinho for about a day and a half, is that then everything that you learned will become very clearly evident in your behavior. As all of the great mystic traditions say, and as they teach, is the pause. The pause. When you do this practice for 2 to 5 seconds, what's going to happen is the pause itself is going to increase. You're going to abide longer and longer in the I am, in the beingness, in the awareness. And as that pause lengthens from 2 seconds to 5 seconds to 10 seconds to 15 seconds, what's going to happen is you will experience more and more subtle levels of enlightenment. And then it's to understand that you are the nature of reality. You are exactly what you seek. You are the creator of awareness and of these worlds. And you create them eternally, endlessly, to play in a process called Leela, the divine play of hiding and seeking, of forgetting and remembering, endlessly through all of these different design potentials. And then so you'll abide as that, and that'll be even more enlightened because you'll recognize yourself as the creator. You'll recognize the creator in every single person. You'll recognize the creator in every single experience serving your awakening. serving everyone's awakening. You'll recognize the Creator in our beautiful planet, in our beautiful environment, in the birds chirping, in the drinks of water that you have, in the bites of food that you eat. And that's all that's meant by enlightenment. You radiate out the sunlight of knowing your true nature. Now I go pee. Perfect. Now you take over.
Great. Good dynamic. I love it so much.
I know, me too.
I love it so much.
The audience is very, I love it. That's so good.
Yeah, and every moment has this potential to recognize that you are. Because it's the case in every moment. And it's really easy to see. It's like it's not something difficult or far away, or it's the very fact that you have to be in order to hear this voice, to hear these sounds. The very fact that you have to be in order to watch this video. So it's already the case. The only thing that it requires from your end, so to speak, is to recognize it. To recognize the fundamental isness or beingness, the substratum of this moment, of this togetherness, the one expressing itself seemingly different sides of the screen. Like we are on this side of the screen and seemingly you are there on that side of the screen. But still it's the same one awareness. Like Atlas uses the word shared awareness a lot in our communication. It's very powerful because just to tune into that for a moment, like it's a shared awareness.
Because we come from the same source, the awareness is shared.
Yes, exactly. So there is, in truth, that is verifiable in this moment, there is no distance between you being on that side of the screen and we being on this side of the screen. Because that assumption, that engagement with thoughts saying, I am here inside of this body, the engagement with the sensation of I am this feeling, this sensation, this being, this body, is observable.
You are formless and you are non-local. That's what your consciousness, your awareness is. That's what our true nature is. We are that formlessness experiencing first, before we are all the descriptors, descriptions of I am this body in Costa Rica, and you are that body in your location in the world.
Because this needs thoughts, it needs thinking, right? So even this is why it's so powerful, even to relax all thoughts for 2 to 5 seconds, and we can do it again now. In these few seconds, was there or is there separation? Can you find anywhere separation without having to think about it first? Without having to create the thought, this is separate, this is there, this is here, and this is the distinction of the space between it. So if it takes thinking, if it takes something that has to, in order for you to say, I am over here separate from you on that side of the screen, then it's not real. Then it's not fundamental. Then it's not what you are.
If it appears and disappears, it's not what you are.
Because you're still there when it disappears. So how could it be you?
Perfect.
How could it ever be who we truly are?
We've never actually experienced a birth or a death. We just tell some stupid story for children, and then it creates a little egoic hitchhiker.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to work our whole lives on kicking the egoic hitchhiker out of the car. Otherwise, you get to the end of your life, and you're there. And you're laying there in the deathbed, and you thought about being finite your whole life. You were finite your whole life. And so everything you did was about being finite. Never once did infinity come. Never once did infinity or abiding as even awareness come. So the question again is, what is in your North Star position desire? Do you want to know your true nature? Do you want to liberate yourself from suffering? Do you want to become a more advanced Jedi?
And if that is what you want, then acknowledging the negative beliefs and the nonsense within yourself is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no other way. Because you are meant to engage, to identify with this conditioning. Like Antonio shared in this retreat, the way he articulates it is that your whole body and mind is made out of the stuff of this planet. It is made out of the ways of this planet, the conditioned behavior of this planet, the ways of thinking, the DNA of the mixes of all the beings, and your individual body-mind-spirit complex, or the body-mind in this moment, is that. So to just recognize that for a moment gives you some context to being okay with acknowledging that this is happening within you. It is not you, but it is happening within you. And every moment that this negative belief, whatever negative belief is triggered, first it will do a little bit of this, because it's based on this hitchhiker, like you call it. Because maybe to give a little bit more background, for me the word enlightenment partially means to lighten the load.
Yep.
And the other aspect is to be fulfilled with light.
Yes.
But when you lighten the load, it's automatically, instantaneously fulfilled with light. Illuminated.
Yes.
So this is why it's the first phase, or the first step, the first thing to bring your attention to, is to know yourself, to become aware of your patterns, your behavior, your way of thinking, who you think you are, all of this.
Yeah.
And then acknowledge it. That is acknowledgement. And the second step is the acceptance of what you are perceiving. But in a way, what you are describing was already the second step, because the moment you really acknowledge is there, it is seen in the already acceptedness. Because you're only running away from what you see until you you see you are free from it. You can see that it's already accepted. It's okay. There was a few moments in our communication this week that I shared with him some negative belief that I saw. And the first reason why I can share this negative belief is because I know at some degree that I am already free from that. Because I saw it with other negative beliefs. So then it builds the power, the conviction that even this one I am not, but somehow I still believe in a way that I am that. So then by sharing that, exposing that, you already diminish the believability in it, and to then have a reflection from a being that is you, but that seems to be having an authority in that moment against your now lousy mind or nonsensical mind, is very powerful because it can be instant. Like he reflects, he speaks what you already know.
Perfect.
And this is the same what is happening here. This is why you maybe feel like, wow, this resonates. Like this is resonance. This is what resonance is about. Like I already know I am this, and I will now just create out of my power these two amazing beings, reminding me of what I am.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. And then it's also easier, you know. Like the more you can tune into listening to this moment, like it is me speaking to me directly, to whatever degree you have intuitive access to that, even if it's not your full experience all the time, you can tune into that because it's the reality. It's more real to tune into than believing, creating the thought that we are separate, because for that second option you have to do something, create something, make it appear. But for the most fundamental, it is not. This is why it is real. It is always real.
And remember that you can't pull the flower to make it grow faster. So naturally, the blossoming is happening. Naturally. Yet you do have the will, as you experience disharmony, as you experience suffering, you do have the choice all the time as you experience those negative emotions. It's an emotional guidance system telling you, do you want to pursue this top desire of freedom? Because if you do, take this most uplifting path. Most people are closed off to this path. They're only open to these paths. And most people, if they don't listen to the emotional guidance system, they go in this direction.
You shared a little already on your channel about the emotional guidance system.
Yeah,
and
we
following
have.
your excitement.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
before.
great.
Yeah.
Just that there is some
Context, yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a specific video that they can go to if they didn't saw it yet.
Just very, very briefly, emotions work to teach you about your true nature. They're trying to get you to align to your true nature. Mm-hmm. Most simply put, emotions arise as a teacher for you to align with your true nature more, for you to know yourself more, for you to not suffer in the future, for you to make the decisions to not suffer in the future. Treat it like a lesson that's coming to you, that's teaching you. Suffering is the drill sergeant of the awakening.
Yeah, so it's a positive thing. Like this is something that you can actually practice to start to perceive that when you feel triggered in a positive way. And this was very powerful for me to really see like, okay, every time that I do feel contraction, that I do feel an unpleasant emotion that is then indicating that I have a belief that is out of alignment with the actual truth, the structure of the creation, of what I am, of what is fundamentally true. It's only through guidance you have direct guidance. Then I see, okay, this means that I am 100% connected. Because I am connected to my own guidance, to my guidance system, it means that I am 100% unconditionally loved. Because it keeps on knocking on the back door of my heart until I open.
Perfect.
Every time when I perceive something should be different and it's lacking here and there is anger or frustration, if I keep telling myself that story, the anger will become more angry, will amplify. So it is so unconditional. You are so loving yourself that you will keep knocking until you open. And in the same way, you are guiding yourself through excitement.
Yes.
Where to bring your focus. Instead of like you're perceiving something wrong. Like here, this is the next breadcrumb in the trail for you to now act upon or bring your attention or your whole being or your focus towards. And like this shift in attention of starting to follow what feels good, what feels truly good, the resonates, the joy, the excitement, came from the formula of Bashar. I don't know if you are familiar with this. It's extraterrestrial consciousness channeled through Daryl Anker. And the formula, very quickly, is to act upon your highest excitement to the best of your abilities, whatever is in the range of what you are able to act upon in that moment. You choose the highest option, like the hand, exactly. So you choose the highest, not the other ones, highest. And you do that, and you take that as far as you can, until you cannot take it any farther. So for example, you have a direction, something that excites you, you act upon that until you cannot take it any farther, and then from that point, you have to take a new avenue. Again, what is the highest excitement? Instead of interpreting, something went wrong, there is a wall here, blocked. No, you just see it was not about the result. We are not going somewhere. It's just a navigation tool. Okay, now what is the highest bound? And then very powerful part of it, but the mind somehow always seems to forget it, and it is with zero insistence what's the outcome.
Yep.
Mind leaves this part out, I follow my excitement.
Exactly. And in the desire space is the carrot of Maya.
Yeah.
In the desire space, you're seeking peace and happiness from the attainment of an object or an experience or a relationship. And when you say, I will be happy once I have that house, is misery. So you do karma yoga where you pursue that excitement in the North Star position that is not about getting a carrot from Maya, but instead it is about a transcendent noble aim that is in service to other people. It's in service to the ignition of the global awakening. It's in service because that's ultimately what's going to bring you most happiness. It's ultimately what's going to bring you most peace, is to know your true nature and then to become in service to other people. And so having that up there and then pursuing that with the greatest amount of excitement, and then completely liberating yourself of any of the fruits from the attainment of said goals.
Yeah, and you will bump into that many times.
You will.
That you think like, I'm just acting upon it because it excites me. I don't care about the outcome.
I'm so selfless. I already know I'm 100% selfless. Yeah, Bentinho made it really clear. He's been doing the self-purification engine for the last couple of years. And we have these 10,000 layers of deception.
Yeah, self-deceit.
Yeah, self-deceit. And so, even for what I was reflecting on myself yesterday, I finally got to one of those layers, and that I'm going to keep getting excited about recognizing more of these layers or impurities in this service to other, true purity that we must have to make sure there's no holes on the ship of the Igniting the Global Awakening, which was that this level of excitement from other people asking me for the truth.
Can you
So,
phrase it a little different?
as in, we can get excited or even a little bit egotistical from the fact that people are asking us about the true nature of what's happening, of who we are. And so it's important to completely liberate yourself from that, to purify that impurity, so that you no longer gain pleasure from people inquiring to you because you know, because there is no person here that knows. This is only intelligent infinity interacting with itself. There's no Atlas unit here that knows. It's just the truth coming through. That's all it is. And so that's a good way to liberate yourself from the impurity, is to recognize that this is a shared dream, that you don't exist. That it's just the truth playing with itself, awakening itself after falling asleep in the dream. And that's eternally being explored. But those are some higher level non-duality understandings. But you, even in a lower understanding, talking to myself from a couple of years ago, recognize that when you go to sleep at night and you dream, you simulate the environment and you simulate the observer in the environment. You simulate both. And after you wake up from your dream, maybe you were hanging out at the base of the Eiffel Tower in your dream. Ask yourself, did that experience happen? The one that I dreamed, where I was at the base of the Eiffel Tower hanging out? Very simply. And the answer to that question is no. It did and it didn't. Ultimately, no. But simultaneity, yes. This is happening and it's not. It is a symphonic expression, and it's also a dream. And so that's a way also to liberate yourself. It's partly some of that Neo-Advaita pointing, is to liberate yourself even from your person consciousness. Liberate yourself even from the unit, the form, the identity that you carry. Let's wrap.
Yeah, this is very, very powerful. Also, the dynamic that happens. It's kind of the same as how most of the retreat was based, that we would go to a more abstract or metaphysical zooming out, and then to a more practical pointer or more tangible way or tool or technique or permission slip, and then merging the two, like the relative and the metaphysical.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, really just to play with that within ourselves. Like, okay, we have some tools, we have permission slips, and I'm also speaking to myself because I have a lot of joy and excitement for seeing how permission slips work, like how the mechanism, the structure, the fabric of things work. First, for myself to see these things, to be able to shift them easier or faster, or how the mechanism of shifting itself works, the mechanism of choice. For example, that every time that I perceive more benefit in option A than option B, I will automatically choose option A. It's just automatic. Until I perceive more benefit, my perceived benefit shifts, my choice shifts, right? But all of this understanding is still a permission slip, and every permission slip is only to come to the recognition that you have free will, free choice. And with this free will, you can inquire upon your own nature more directly, more instantly. And this is the more subtle levels of, or you can say more self-realization oriented than self-actualization. Eventually the two parts, they are just assisting each other, are one,
Totally.
merging, coming together. It's kind of like you build up this capacity to rest as being more, to also having a more understanding of the fabric of things, and to apply yourself, also to be actively of service and to purify your service,
Exactly.
so that it can become more genuine. Wow.
Yes. 2 to 5 seconds. Relax. Relax. Do it. Do the repetitions. Put noble aims in the North Star position. Recognize yourself as the creator, that which endlessly explores these realities.
And let yourself be guided by that what sparks you, your joy, your excitement,
Your calling.
your calling.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. We adore you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you feel. If the video brought you value, give it a like. Helps that YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't to the channel. Also, we'll put some of Nadim's links in the bio below. You can go and check out that as well. And share the video with people that you feel like it would make a profound influence on. And take these very simple, actionable steps to help us catalyze, igniting the global awakening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Great.
Yes.
Boom. Much love.